Okay, so let's get started with ICP.Lab Business Boosters. Today is the third edition on the 23rd of March, and the topic is community building success stories. So today we have me with a short intro to the ICP.Lab Business Boosters, and then Elias will speak from Grizzlyfi, and he will also talk about the DCHF platform, which is really exciting for me being based in Switzerland. And afterwards we have Evan, who's going to speak about how they build a community for the Power DAO. And afterwards we have Alex Turner from Discover, the biggest social media app on the internet computer, sharing their story, how they got so many users. And afterwards we have time for questions, answers. If you have questions during the session, just post them in the chat. I make sure I keep notes, and we have time to answer them in the end. So I hand over to Elias. Thanks for being with us, and I'm looking forward to hear from you.
Awesome. So yeah, first of all, thanks, Tim, and it's cool to be here. Talk about one of my favorite topics, actually, community building. I would say, let me share my screen straight away so you guys can see what I see. Quick introduction. My name is Elias Felschlin. I'm also based, like Tim, in Zurich in Switzerland. I'm co-founder of two projects. One is Grizzlyfi, the other one is actually Moneta DAO. It's made a renaming from DCHF to Moneta. So Moneta is an ecosystem which focuses on stablecoins. And the first one is the DCHF. So we have actually the biggest decentralized Swiss franc stablecoin next to the Bitcoin Swiss and other Swiss partners. And with Grizzlyfi, we actually built a liquidity mining aggregator on the Binance Smart Chain over the last 2 years. And I had the pleasure to focus myself on how to build a community around the Web3 protocol, and did a little bit of marketing, not too much, for the Moneta DAO ecosystem so far. And we're in an interesting phase because with Grizzlyfi, we want to make it as easy as possible for people to enter and to benefit from the Web3 space. And with Moneta, we're going more of a Web3 approach and having a DAO, first of all, and going more complicated approach, having stable coins, building on Grizzlyfi too, to enable leverage liquidity mining and so on. So it will be more on the complex side, and Grizzlyfi is really more on the easy side. But yes, we at Grizzlyfi, we actually had a cool start. So let me see. Perfect. The simple reason why we had the biggest launch on the BNB chain with an outdated, buggy liquidity mining aggregator, which people actually never saw before. That's a fact, basically, because we raised 26 million within 3 days by just having actually no product out there. And just a few days ago, actually, a friend of mine and coworker asked me like, hey, how did that actually happen? Why did we raise so much money? People never saw our product before, and it's actually not that great, because having a liquidity mining aggregator in 2022, which has some bears and bees and hives on it, is nothing special. But what's special is the community that we built around. Because, I mean, we're in Switzerland, we speak German, and we had a big advantage when speaking of community, because we were able to build up a German-speaking community in the DACH region. And especially this community was actually super strong, and is actually super strong still. And yeah, we just were able to build up a great community around a protocol. And I mean, this little presentation, I will talk about how we did that and what kind of formulas we actually followed. So yes, if you continue, I mean, in the crypto space, we have a lot of these guys. They don't know that that I own a monkey JPEG, which can be verified on chain. And the funny thing on that picture is that it actually symbolizes one thing in our society, that everyone wants to belong. And therefore also communities work, because communities aren't based on a formula or anything. It's pure emotions. People want to belong to communities, and that's what they like, because communities are basically just, and I actually have a slide for that. It's funny. what communities actually mean. A community is a group of people who share a common interest, identity, or location and interact with each other on a regular basis, written by ChatGPT. So this is the perfect sentence to describe what the community is. It's just a group of people who have a similar interest. And I mean, I can say it from our side at Grizzly. I mean, we did some research on what kind of community do we want to have, and why were we so successful on that? And it's actually funny because we have two community cores and two archetypes that we target with our community. One archetype is the freedom archetype. So these guys would just invest in liquidity mining and want to create a passive cash flow. And I really hope that everyone in here is familiar with liquidity mining. It's basically making money on decentralized protocols, right? And the other archetypes, the other archetype is more the archetype which goes for power and especially monetary value, as we call them in Web3, the Moon Boys, which just want to make a quick buck by aping into a token and making money out of it. And these guys we actually got by having a clear roadmap, having a clear vision, and show them also our faces and that we actually can do something. And with these two communities, we actually were able to have such a great impact. So there's a big misconception on, and I see it a lot of times actually, between users and community. So users use and community unite, right? And there is actually a funny tweet. I think, I don't know if it was the CEO of Celsius or Voyager. And he said, when they went down, he made a tweet like, I'm so happy that we have such a cool community which supports us in these times. And actually, when I think of Celsius or Voyager, they don't have a community, they have users. And they didn't support them through that times, because when I went through the comment section, it was all about where the fuck is my money? And this is not a community because people just use their protocols, use their utilities, but they were never actually a community. And so when we talk of the differences between community and users, we also talk of the difference between Web 2 and Web 3. Because in Web 2 marketing, it's all about getting people to buy, and in Web 3 marketing, it's all about getting people to buy in. And here we have to look at the natural evolution of a Web 3 company, or a company as its whole. Because when we look at companies, it often starts like this. People have an idea, right? And then they need money. So what do? They go into a funding round, and who funds their project? Often people with a lot of money and who can identify themselves, bless you, Tim, with a vision which is similar, or with an interest which is similar to theirs. So for example, Tesla, or let's say, for example, Amazon doesn't have a community. The only community that it has is the shareholder community. So the people who think, hey, Jeff is a nice dude, and I think he will make a successful business. So therefore, the community is just the shareholders. And the same thing we have in Web3, because in Web3, we only have communities because people buy into products. People don't buy the products. So that's a very, very important thing to understand when we talk about community building, that people actually buy into your product. And they're actually also emotionally attached. And therefore, you have a complete different angle on how you tackle to get more people onboarded. And I like to symbolize it as that. So this was actually the best picture I found of cars crossing each other, because there's a simple example I can give you when we talk of community and users. So when two cars cross each other, nothing happens, right? I mean, if they don't crash into each other, obviously. But nothing really happens. If two normal cars cross each other, nothing happens. But when two bikers cross each other, something happens. They always wave to each other. And why does that happen? Because bikers don't use their bike, they are in communities. So bikers don't bike because they need to go from A to B, they bike because they like to bike, right? And that's the big difference between users and community. Because the car is a utility, but the bike is like a vehicle which brings you into a community kind of. And I mean, it's not a one-to-one example, definitely not, but it symbolizes quite good what the difference between a community and users are. Because also, I mean, in bikers, you have like bikers pubs, and you have like bikers jackets and stuff like that. That's exactly what a community has. And often, and I think in the next slide, we go into that, yes. And often you have communities in different kind of shapes and sizes or forms. A community always has a same problem, a similar or same problem, a similar or same goal, follows the same dream, is on the same mission, has the same enemies, has the same fears. So when we think of that fears, we see of these social groups, you know, where you sit into a circle and you talk about the problem that you have or a fear that you have, right? Because you feel you want to, or these communities are, I mean, especially quite strong most often. Same enemies. Think of football teams. They always have the same enemies, and that's why they're always, so the community feeling is there, especially quite big. When we think of dreams, you know all these for example, get rich seminars and communities. They follow the same dream. Therefore, the community forms, and they have the same archetype. So when we started Grizzly, we actually thought a lot about that. And there is actually a book about the archetypes, and it's one of the best marketing books I think is out there, because what you really have to understand when you think of community building is what is the core interest behind a community. It's always a core desire, which is the same when we talk about the community. So we at Grizzly, we thought, okay, which core desires or which archetypes, which categories, which characters do we have in our community? And we found out, and I talked about just that we have two different ones, that one, for example, is the explorer, freedom. He seeks for freedom. He invests into liquidity mining because he wants to have a passive income and wants to sit under the palm, drink some coconuts. Yeah. And the other one is the control, power, and wealth guy. He wants control. He wants also, I mean, provide structure is an interesting one. The power guy, this is really like to make dreams come true, right? And we made actually how's it called, a quiz for the community. And this was one of the most interesting things I ever did with our community, because we asked them different questions. Because you can, when you formulate questions a bit the right way, people will give you the right answers. So we, for example, asked like, what is your favorite car? What would you rather have, $5,000 every month or $500,000 right now? Because like this, you can easily find out if people strive for freedom, if they strive for power, and so on. And I mean, to know who you target is probably the most interesting, or one of the most important things in marketing. Because when we talk of marketing, and I mean, this is what the community is all about. I mean, obviously you guys want to learn something about community, but why do you want to learn something about community? Because you need marketing and you want to build up a community, and marketing is the way to build a community, right? And therefore, being effective in marketing is one of the most important things. And that's just very important that you exactly know who do you want to target. Exactly. The four essentials for me is when we think of building a community is definitely fix your core desires, be sure which archetypes you want to really target, because therefore you can adjust a lot of things in your branding, in your wording, in your design, in everything. Have a clear vision, draw a perceived value which is as big as possible, but doesn't seem unreachable. So the perceived value should be really something when you tell it to people should really think like, oh fuck, when he pulls that off or she pulls that off, I want to have that token right now. I want to be in that community. I want to be part of that. This is a big revolution. And therefore the branding is super important, because I mean, I guess you guys know about the Coke and Pepsi thing, that actually Pepsi wins all the taste tests, but Coke is always, anytime, they always choose Coke. And why is that happening? Because Coke just made a great branding, because Coke isn't better in test, but it makes you feel better. when you think of Coke, you think of Santa Claus in the winter, right? And having that big red lightning truck and everything is good and happy. Therefore, the branding is very important. And obviously deliver on your roadmap. But this is something, I guess, a lot of tech guys are here. You guys know that better than everyone else. Delivering is super important. And I mean, as someone who did a lot of marketing, and I mean, we also have a big tech team. I know it's not always easy. Exactly. So the brand utilities are super important. I mentioned that because when you fix your archetypes, when you know who you want to target, then it's all about like, how do you make people feel? And this obviously goes quite hard into how effective you can build up a community. And as soon as you know who will be in your community or who's your target audience, you exactly know how you want to make the design, how you want to make the wording, how you want to also build personal brands, probably around specific roles in your company, because this is something, especially in crypto, especially in DeFi, that people highly underestimate how good faces sell. Because we always talk in crypto about, you know, no trust needed, and so on. But everything people strive for, and I see it a lot, is a face who they can trust. So as I mentioned, a big part of our branding is actually our faces. We talk a lot, we show a lot of faces. We have a big social media team, which just puts us everywhere, and being out there is super important. So yes, this is basically it. I mean, there's a lot more. I talked about vision statement, perceived values, the real utilities of products, obviously, get close to your community, and so on. There's a lot of interesting stuff when we talk about marketing and community building. But I think, yeah, this is it for another thing, for another presentation. To summarize, a strong community is not a bunch of strangers in a Discord. It's a strong community is a bunch of strangers in the Discord that want the same thing in life. This is really what summarizes what a community really is. And I think this sentence should help you to think differently, probably how to build a community. And yes, probably as a final word, in Web3 and in crypto marketing, we often underestimate marketing. Or in Web3, we underestimate marketing a lot. I see that a lot because a lot of teams have a lot of developers, and obviously that's needed, but don't forget your marketing. It's super important. And yeah, with that being said, I think this was everything from my end. Yeah, thank you very much.
Elias, once we have you, and there's been one question in the chat, I just ask them right now. So Jordan asked, Elias, you asked this quiz to your community, but how did you build the community in the first place to even give them the quiz? And I also put in the chat, like, I'm a TwistDeFi investor. I found you guys via YouTube, like some German DeFi channels. So maybe this is one part how you got those people, but please
Absolutely.
share more how you
Absolutely.
got community.
So, I mean, building a community in the first place is obviously super important, so you can even ask them questions, right? And this is more about growth then. I think this question should be more about growth, because when we talk about building a community, everything that I talked about is about the fundamentals. Who should be in your community? What kind of preparation should you do? But when we then talk about growth, and I mean also how you probably became aware of us, was probably about YouTube, about influencers and so on. And I mean, what we really try to do is when we think of conversion channels for especially crypto projects, crypto YouTubers are obviously the best. And this was actually how we built everything up. A lot of stuff started with that. What we really saw as a great conversion objective is giveaways. So we actually run a huge giveaway in the start of our project. We collected 930,000 leads with email addresses, everything, which we were able to formulate out custom audiences and so on. So how when someone asks, what is the best thing to, first of all, build a community? I would say run a giveaway, get as many people aware of that, build a super great affiliate system, and spread it as hard as you can. And I mean, by spreading as hard as you can, I really mean try out as many different growth tactics. I mean, growth hacking especially worked very nice for us, no matter what it is. Especially YouTubers obviously are super, super good. And having an affiliate system in place really is a great opportunity, because 50% of our leads came from viral boosts. So basically people who referred people. And yeah, this would be my answer.
Cool. Cool. Thank you very much.
Thanks
for being here today. Jordan says thank you. Cool. So I hand over to Evan. Evan is part of the Power DAO, which has probably the most valuable NFTs on the Internet Computer blockchain. So we're looking forward how you made that happen.
Sure. Thanks for having me, Tim. And yeah, so I'll try to keep mine a lot shorter and to keep up with lost time, and it'll also be a lot less formal. And I want to start this off by saying I guess the foundational idea that I'm bringing to the table as far as community building is that what I've learned over my years in crypto is that we have a lot less control than we think we do. And I would go so far as to say we have almost no control over what the community becomes. And if you learn that and you use that in the right way, that's the way to building a community. And that's if that's something you want to do. So I'll start this off with a story. I learned a lot more about crypto community building from my failures than my one success, let's say, with the Power DAO. And my first foray into crypto was with this company called Mysterium. And I was a real tech nerd. I still am. And I absolutely love this company. They're a decentralized VPN. And I love them because their technology was far superior than any of the other decentralized VPNs, and even, well above and beyond ExpressVPN, NordVPN, these other big characters. So they brought me on. They said, oh, this guy's a real crypto bro. We need to build a community. And that was my job, figure out how in the heck to do that. So we went the conventional routes. It was like we, tweeting a couple times a day, got the Discord hooked up. Everyone was able to communicate. We made ourselves more available. I was reaching out to all these influencers, trying to get it to work that way. And our selling point was, oh, the technology's better in all these ways. And we had a central mission that I thought a lot of people would resonate with. We're breaking down the barriers to censorship. We're removing China's Great Wall of censorship. We're allowing freedom of information and making it global. So I thought everyone would rally behind this and we would have a huge crypto community like flow in. I thought the task would be easy. We kept banging our heads against the wall, and eventually we hired a consultant, and the consultant was the former CMO of Cardano, the person who was responsible for Cardano's marketing success. So we had calls with this guy, and how the calls generally went is we would explain everything that we're doing, and we're saying the results are not coming through. There's no community. And this guy was so confused. he was just going through the boilerplate build a community advice. He's like, be active in Discord, tweet 3 times a day, have a blog, add SEO to your website, all these things. And we were asking way deeper questions. Like we're like, why do we even hire this guy? He was the marketing manager at Cardano. And so, I mean, moved my career. This was about 5 years ago now. And I've been building crypto startups since. And that's what kind of led me to this belief that it's not the conventional branding advice that you get from a general company that a community will end up building around. So I'm going to share my screen and show you what I think was responsible for the success, at least marketing wise, of Cardano. Cardano, for those for people who were around in the early days, let's just look at a maxed out chart here. Cardano was the rave of the Web3 in 2017, 2018, and it had no product built. It had the name Charles Hodgkinson, this man that we put up on a pedestal now as Ethereum co-founder and the genius behind Cardano, and we had a token, a very cheap token hanging out at around 3 cents in 2017 in early 2018, and then it jumped over $1. And then in the crypto winter, went all the way back down to 3 cents. And little did everybody know at this time, everyone was talking about the superior technology of Cardano. Me personally, like a Web3 nut, didn't understand what all the rave was about, but they had a narrative behind it that was so powerful. And even to this day, I mean, we just had smart contracts become available after 5 years of development on Cardano, and you couldn't even do anything with these smart contracts. And we still really don't have a main product shipped, but we have a token that people speculated on, and there was extreme volatility. So we went from 3 cents to $3 multiple times, multiple cycles, and now we're back down to 30, 40 cents. If you take in what I learned from the marketing manager of Cardano, and you take the results of Cardano's infamous lack of ability to deliver on their promises quickly, I think it's clear that speculation played a much greater role than people would like to admit in something like this. So what did Cardano have? They had a speculative token early in a niche where people didn't have tokens. The internet computer didn't have a token at the time. Polkadot didn't have a token at the time in the early days. And if you guys were around during that, we didn't have big communities, and Cardano did. So, and they were kind of the Web3 startups that were on the same tier technology-wise, you know, infinitely scalable blockchains. So that's kind of what I want to start with. I think speculation is everything, and then having the person there to trust and the story to trust. And for Cardano, that was Charles Hodgkinson. Now, I'll dive into the successful community that I helped build as a co-founder of Power DAO. And as a reminder, that is BTC Flower. So this is our project right here. The founding image, just a BTC Flower. I'm sure you look at this and there's no confusion about what this project is, what it represents. You know, it's Bitcoin blooms and the dollar dies. That's our mission, and this is what everyone stands behind. And now I'll lay the cards out on everything that happened that allowed us to build this community very early on. And it happened like that. And I titled this blog, Bitcoin Flower on Achieving the Dream of Web3. And I call that dream the ability for anyone to create a successful project where everyone benefits from it and where no gatekeepers were required to extract value. So we launched BTC Flower at 5 ICP. This was, we did no marketing leading up to it. We still haven't done any marketing. We never paid for anything along those lines. It quickly shot up to 15. We intentionally kept the price very low. And as you can see from this green bar, it shot all the way up in a matter of weeks to 250, where it hangs around close to this day. Now, what's so significant about this and the difference between all the other launches? Well, I would say is that it was done without any high upfront costs. It was just a bunch of team members that were volunteers working for free up until that point to make a dream come true. And there was no VC funding behind it. There was no pre-mint that went to us. You know, we had to buy at the public sale with everybody else. And from that day on, we had this group of holders that had made a significant amount of money. And now, how does this differ from a major launch? Is that this red bar, which is the number of transactions, is what a typical launch looks like. A token launch is really high. Everybody buys it, hype dies, and so does the project along with it. That's just generally how tokens launch. And the reason it happens that way is because there's interest involved. If a venture capitalist invests pre-seed round, or if there's any pre-seed round or seed round, when it comes out, the people who invested early are going to dump. It's just how that works. So if you can avoid that entirely, then you get a community, and then the community takes on its own form from there. I'll jump to this. I just wanted to Google what a community is. I think this is important, and it's a distinction that we'll make between when you want a community and when you don't. So when you Google community, what do you have? Every single picture is the same archetype. It's around 10 people that have a shared value. No one is above anyone else. No one is below anyone else. They're almost indistinguishable, and they're happy to be together in the same place. That's really simple. So in a human sense, that's what a community is. A company, you just Google DuckDuckGo is what I'm using, is what a company is. it's the same archetype. It's a high-rise building. It puts itself above all the others that it represents, and it's meant to attract. So it sucks value from around it up into that building in a metaphorical sense. So I really think that you need to choose which of the two that you're going to be. Now, companies, I mean, when you build a service on a blockchain, it could be a decentralized protocol built in a decentralized way, all this stuff. You don't need a community to begin with. When I was working at that VPN startup that never got a community, still to this day, it never needed one. What it really needed to build was a brand, because it wanted to extract value from people. It didn't want to take people in and have them create the value. So that, I mean, but it was built on 100% decentralized architecture. You're building a service that you want people to buy, and that you're going to take the value from them, even if you're providing them more value with your own service, then you don't need a community. So that's the way that I see it. And then the flip side of this is if you're building a true DAO, then all of the value, or almost all the value, comes from the community, and what the community forms around isn't something exactly that you chose. So in the case of Flower Power DAO, we had this flower. We released it. It was done by Ludo, and the direction that we went after that was almost entirely controlled by the community. So we knew there was this need for artists to express themselves in a way, but there was a huge technical barrier in front of them that prevented them from doing that. So there was the problem that we wanted to fix. We learned that from the community. We learned that most NFT projects launch at a really high valuation, community fades, price goes down. We wanted to flip that model. We launch at a really low price. Everyone makes money in the beginning, and then as the price goes up, the people who need the money more ultimately get it back by selling, and then the people who are wealthier, who have more money, are what pushes it higher. So the art market, in a sense, is that natural wealth redistributor. And the other idea is the idea for a community DAO that we have, that you can use your flowers to write suggestions, is pretty much something that came from the community. The way that we launched, the prices that we launched, some of the colors, some like the art decisions, those are decided by flower holders. And then I think this is diametrically opposed to the conventional model of raising money with a VC. So if we went that route, and we discussed this and we had that opportunity, how is that still a DAO? Because the ownership of the project has been given to a set of investors that the other, like the ones who created the DAO, are now profiting and calling themselves the owner, and giving part ownership to somebody else in exchange for services that the community didn't take full part in. So I think another ingredient to the recipe of success of FP is the fact that we have this symbol, but not only that, the whole community knows that they can trust us because we didn't raise money. We have all our faces out there, and we're just the team right now is 5 or so chill guys that did this for free or are going to be around no matter what. And also, we aren't acting like a company in the sense that we raise ourselves above that community and try to extract value by selling a service to others. We're more of just on the same level as everybody else. We communicate with everybody else. We take their ideas as seriously as we take our own. And like delivery is kind of just something that we use as a guide for ourselves. We have to do some of the development, and then at the end of the day, that's what we get paid for. But we're moving to the point where if you just want to logistically call this a community, it will be 100% protocol run, where you don't even need us anymore. So I'll leave you with this last thought. And if you want like the philosophical side of what I'm saying, I know this is a very philosophical conversation, but community it's fundamentally different from what every company has done beforehand. Companies are building brands. They are speedboats. They have someone at the helm that's steering, and they have all these mechanisms behind it that pushes it forward. And the person at the helm decides everywhere that speedboat goes. And it's also a lot more expensive to run a speedboat. You have to pay for gas. You have to keep the machinery up. And then DAOs, and what really envelops a community is a sailboat. And really all that the team is the rudder. So you stay out of the way, and then wherever the wind takes you is where the community is taking you, and you just listen to it, and you go on your own way as it is. And for those who are struggling with this, like, you might be thinking to yourself, oh, you know, that's easy for you to say. You have this successful community already, and all those other failures are behind you. You left them behind. Well, maybe that's true, but I would recommend others do exactly the same. If you put out something out there and it didn't form its own community, it's dead. It doesn't come up from, you can't tweet your way to getting people to care about this. People who join a community come in for the community that's already there. They don't come for you. Hopefully, otherwise, then we have more of a brand situation, right? Where you're offering a service, you're making it look cool, and you want people to aspire to be it, not be a part of it. So that's what I'm saying. I think if you don't have a community, and if you're not struggling, or if you're struggling to find a community, you need to either decide that, hey, I'm more a company that's building a brand and selling a service, and I shouldn't go the community route. Or if you really want to make a DAO and you didn't get that community initially, you put the idea out there and it's not succeeding, fail fast and move on to the next. So that's my spiel. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Evan. That was really cool. Some really cool analogies. I'm excited to hear from Discover, because like you really talked about a community and like being really people driven, and Discover, for me at least, when I joined DFINITY, was already like a corporate that's run by a community, or which has a big community, more a bit of the company style. So Alex, looking forward to hear from you how you guys raised so many users.
Yeah. Hey guys. Let me share my screen. It says Discover Web3 Social.
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay. Cool. All right. So I'm Alex. I'm not Rick. A lot of you might know Rick. Rick's very active in the community, but you get me today. And the way you know is I have hair. So if you were confused, I'm the CEO and co-founder of Discover. So Rick's also listening, which is why you could see him on the call, but I got to present today. So if you guys don't know what Discover is, it's a Web3 social media platform. We're the biggest Web3 social media platform in the world, also on ICP. We're the largest on-chain social network built totally on ICP. We really have this emphasis on SocialFi, which means tokens flow through the platform seamlessly, and value can like it's social media, like you would expect, but value is just transferring through the platform everywhere you look. It's really ideal for crypto community building, which is why it's probably a good fit for this call. And there's an emphasis on rewarding the community. So a lot of people can just be posting on social media and get an NFT or a fungible and actually start making money. So it started out super simple. We put up a really bare bones site. This is not what the site looked like. It looked way shittier at first. And I was actually asking Rick if we had screenshots, and he's like, no, we don't. So we got to maybe dig some up. But it looked really bad, and it was just posts and portals are just groups, basically, or subreddits or whatever. It was just modeled off of Reddit. And the initial concept was, can we build a social media platform on chain? Is this even possible? Because at the time, like it was absurd. I've been working in crypto and around crypto since 2018, and the thought of putting an entire site on chain, an entire social media platform on chain, it just sounds ridiculous. Like you had trouble storing images and stuff like that. So that was the initial experiment. And all this stuff you see below, where portals became customizable communities with role-based access control, posts became all these different things, that came later. It was really just simple posts and groups of posts in portals. And we pretty organically just started getting our first posts. We had very few, but they were really thoughtful and interesting. People who were into crypto, into Web3, just stumbled upon our platform because that was their interest. And we had people signing up and being like, this is dope. What can we do with it? And literally our first posts were just people giving us suggestions on what to do with the platform. Here's an example of someone who had some like kind of crazy ideas for NFTs. Like, oh, they could be a profile picture, which now they are on Discover. But he had some really cool ideas about what could happen with the NFT, and like maybe some of those will still happen in the future. So the first thing we ended up adding, beyond just being a Web2 social media clone, is the ability to get airdrops directly to your profile. And this was a big change at the time because, and I think it still is very difficult for people to access Web3 tokens. A lot of people don't know how to sign up for MetaMask. I mean, a lot of people do, but more people don't. And it's really hard. So to give people an option to just sign up for a social media platform and start interacting with tokens was kind of a big change. And it still, I think, is a big change for a lot of people. So you get airdrops to your wallet, no setup required. And something that's cool that we added is, because we're a social media platform, you can target users who are contributing great content. So it's not like you're just someone just shows up and you're airdropping to random people, or you're trying to like identify wallets on chain. You can literally look at someone's activity and be like, oh, wow, this person really cares about this project. Maybe we can give them an airdrop. So we did our very first airdrop in partnership with Entrepot. And it was called Starverse. Little funny guys. Nothing crazy. The art wasn't amazing, but it caused a ton of excitement, just a ton of excitement. And there was a flood of posts. I remember just people posting pictures of their Starverse NFTs. And this was like our first really big explosion of activity on Discover. So it went from just a few people posting their interesting ideas to like a ton of people posting, holy shit, I got this NFT, and then more people trying to join the platform. So we started adding a lot of token-based features. We had airdrops, of course, but then we added NFT profile pictures. The next thing I think we added was NFT gating, which is the ability to gate a portal based on NFT ownership. We added fungible tipping, which is the ability to tip a post with a fungible token. And then I think tokens just really became a way to build community on Discover. And the first big token to really do this was OG Metals and OG Lounge. I actually remember we got an email just to our hello@discover.one email from DK Lord. And I don't think he didn't really have a presence in the ICP community at the time, but he was just like, I have this idea for an airdrop, can you help me with it? And he ended up doing it. And he'd made these OG Metals. And I think a lot of, because of it, the traction it got on Discover, some of these ended up selling for thousands of dollars on the secondary market. And OG Lounge was the first, or one of the first communities that was gated by a token. So it became this way to both reward the community, reward people who are contributing to Discover and to OG Metals, and also give them access to this exclusive area. And what really came out of this was that Discover became a way for people to build communities and contribute. Like, they could take our user base. Like at that point, we had a really growing user base. So they could harness our user base and tap into it. But then they also create excitement on our site and bring in new users. So it was this reciprocal relationship where by building a community on Discover, you're also helping Discover build a community. So we're helping you build a community, you're helping us build a community. And I think that's the thing that we tapped into that's been biggest for our growth, for like our community as a whole. So Discover just became this collection of tokenized communities. We have this concept of portals as DAOs now. You can literally create an SNS DAO and hook it up to your portal, and the voting, every vote will show up as a poll in the portal. So a lot of people maybe won't vote on your DAO project. Like, DAO voting is very, very low, but if people have access to it in a social media context, a lot of people participate. We have token-based roles. So token-based roles means you can, every portal has pretty intricate role-based access control and permissions. It's a lot like Discord. So you could say, this role can comment, this role can post, this role can vote on a poll. But what's really cool that you can do is you can say, people who have this token have this role. So you can say, if you own an NFT, you can post, or if you own a certain amount of fungibles, you can vote on polls. And it's kind of a cool way to set up like really intricate Web3 style community building and governance features. And then like the last part of it that's been really interesting that's emerging is communities are starting to have financial power on Discover, which means the first kind of experiment we're doing with this is that a portion of tipping that happens, like a fee on the tipping that happens within a portal goes to the portal treasury, and then the portal can decide what to do with it. So it's really about giving these communities financial power. And beyond that, just selling tokens or giving an airdrop out of a token, storing tokens in the treasury. There's different ways communities can organize and decide how to financially influence the world, which is really interesting. So here's maybe a little bit of a sales pitch, but if you want to build a community on Discover, here's how. First, it's pretty simple. Go create a portal. You could, hopefully this is about something you care about, or something you have, maybe a project you're working on, or a topic that you're interested in. And you can attract some people who have the shared interest. Once you started building your community a little bit, you can identify people who are great contributors, and we can also help you identify people who are contributing great content to either to your community or to Discover as a whole. And I think the next big thing in growing it is doing an airdrop. And that's airdropping a token to your community. Once you do that, and that token can be a fungible, a non-fungible, it could be a token from an SNS DAO. It doesn't really matter. It's up to you, whatever you think would best fit it. And then the third step is sort of up to you, whatever you want to do with it. But there's different options. You can set roles. So you can say, this is how I want my community to be organized. I want these people to have these permissions, or these people with these tokens to have these permissions. You can set up gating where you could give exclusive access to token holders. Or you could set up DAO voting where DAO proposals automatically show up in your portal. Or if you want, you literally can do none of the above and just have a Web2 style community. And I would say if you guys are interested in this, reach out to Doug. He's our community manager. He's super cool. He is somehow like awake at all hours of the day. I'm in Los Angeles on the West Coast, and he's on the East Coast. And sometimes I work late, and I'll message him at like midnight, and he'll respond. And I don't understand how that works, because he'll also be up before me. So there's something, he needs to sleep more. But he'll help you out if you message him. And you could do hello@discover.one, Doug@discover.one, or Twitter. He's pretty active there. You might get Rick on Twitter too sometimes. So one more thing that we're doing is we're just starting to develop with the community, and we have this sort of as an alpha right now. We did something called Portal Hunt, and I don't know if any of you guys participated in Portal Hunt, but it was essentially a set of puzzles that existed within posts, which existed within portals. And if you solved one puzzle, you would get an NFT that unlocked the next puzzle. Then you could solve the next one. So basically, it was a way to interact with tokens within a post, which was super cool. The next thing we're doing, which is not yet been announced, but you guys get a sneak preview, is Discover Arcade. So we're trying to create these little arcade games as experiments within posts. Sort of like if you think of like early Facebook, how they had games. Zynga became very big off early Facebook. But the difference is that the tokens from your airdrops can really seamlessly interact with these arcade games. So if you think about an arcade, it's something where you can put in a token, a traditional arcade, you can put in a token and win tickets, and then you get a prize. We want to do something super similar where you have games that exist in this social media context. So you have distribution for the games. But you can use tokens on these games, meaning it could cost money or it could be free. and then you can earn some sort of token, maybe redeem that token for an NFT or something like that. And it's pretty open how this can be. We're just doing an early experiment internally with it. But the bigger vision is for anyone to be able to build one of these games on Discover and get distribution for the platform and allow their games to take tokens that exist within airdrops. And it's not just games that we're looking at. We have this thing called Social Fabric API. So we also want it to be apps. So little mini apps, even DeFi protocols that could exist within posts or portals. If that's something you guys are interested in, definitely reach out, because we're looking for people who want to experiment with like the early versions of this. But and actually, here's an example. This wasn't even intentional. This is just something that happened. But there is this voucher airdropped, NFT voucher for Plethora, which is a game on ICP. And this just showed up in people's airdrops. But what they could do with the voucher is they could literally take it from their airdrops and redeem it in the Plethora game to get a chance to win CKBTC. So it's really an example of someone using our airdrop system as a way to advertise to a bunch of people, like already Web3 native users. We have nearly 200,000 users. So yeah, it's just an interesting way to do community building, is through this airdrop system. And I think this wasn't like super integrated with us, but it was just sort of an example of how something like this could work. But I think there are really cool ways where you could get even better distribution through Discover if you want to build it into us more. So yeah, those are the two options I think for how to build community on Discover. One is that first option, which is create an airdrop, build a portal. And for that, you should reach out to Discover team on Discover, Discover1 on Twitter, or hello@discover.one. Or if you guys want to participate in our alpha for developing a game or an app within a post, you can reach out to me on Discover A-Turn or Alex Discover on Twitter. I'm not crazy active on Twitter and don't have a lot of followers, which means I actually don't get that many messages. So I'll see it if you message me there. Versus like if you emailed me, I would probably never see it because my email's crazy. Or partners@discover.one. We'll see it there. So that's basically it. Our community grew super organically, but it's a little bit interesting. It's almost like meta, right? Like we empowered communities to grow and that helped grow our community. So that's where we are.
Cool, Alex. Thank you very much. I have some questions for you in the chat. Jordan is asking, what's the value of those exclusive areas? Like what happens there that someone would want to be able to see? I'm not asking critically. I'm generally curious about what value we could add to people who bought our token.
Yeah, it's interesting. So OG Lounge, I mean, I think OG Lounge is still probably one of the most desired ones. And what he would do is he would go out and do one-to-one airdrops for token holders. So he would say, hey, if you're here in this portal, like post something or whatever, and I will get you another airdrop. So that was sort of the access that he gave. And you couldn't post if you didn't own the token, the OG Metal token. But like you could envision, like we provide a lot of tools and I think we want people to get creative. So you could envision a lot of different ways that people could interact or provide exclusive content. Like if someone wanted to use Discover as an alternative for like a Patreon, they could. Or if they wanted to just have a community where they had certain people, like they really limited the amount of people who could post or could comment that they trusted. Like maybe there's certain roles within a DAO that you want to only have some permissions, you could do that. Or if you want a portal just of your friends, you literally could create an NFT for your friends and be like, only people with this NFT can see the portal. And that's kind of like a cool way to do that. Or if you have like an exclusive group of people who are really highly participating in a DAO, you could do it that way. But I don't think we've seen even close to what we will see. Like we want people to be really creative with these tools. And are the combination of the token holding with the role-based access control is super powerful. And I don't think people have like used it to the level that it can be used yet. Because it's very, very customizable what you can do. Yeah, I hope that answered that.
Sure. Yeah, let's stay with the tokens. There's the question, what kind of tokens are used to play games on Discover Arcade?
We're currently discussing this. We haven't decided. There's been ideas floated around, which is like we could use CKBTC as like a way to buy into it, and then maybe you earn something more if you do well. We also discussed just using Discover points if you wanted as a test. We're literally working on this right now, so it's not been finalized. We could even like mint an NFT or a fungible or something like that, just to play around with it. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know yet, but if you are making a Discover Arcade game when we open it up, or if you want to participate in the alpha, you can use any type of token you want. And like, I think the idea is just people have easy access to these tokens on airdrops on Discover. And maybe you airdrop a token to a bunch of Discover users and be like, hey, now you can use this token to play our game. And that's like a way to, people are like, what is this in our airdrops? And then in a bunch of posts, your game is showing up. I think that's like a crazy distribution method to start building a community, especially since we haven't even started. Like, you would be probably one of the first ones to do it. You want to do something like that.
Yes.
But this is super open.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thanks for that. And actually, Doug is on the call, the guy who never sleeps, and he posts the link in the chat. If you guys want to start a game with Discover, there's a type form where you can reach out to Discover. And another question from Zach was, how do you deal with storage cost increasing over time on Discover?
We did a big we raised a seed round. We raised $9 million, so we have money.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Are there
we also have a team of like 17 people at this point, I think. It's hard to keep track because we keep growing, but yeah, we have to pay our employees and we're a real company. So that's how it works.
And little advertisement, storing data on the internet computer is very comparable to regular cloud providers.
Yeah, it's not crazy.
Are there any other questions for Discover? Please put them in the chat. Otherwise, I have a question for, it was for Evan, or Evan, are you still here?
Yeah, I'm here.
So Jordan also asked, so if there was no marketing, how did you get attention for the token and maintaining staying power of value and interest? I get a community and people being bought into the mission, but how specifically?
I'm not sure what he means by token because we don't have a token, but just if you're talking about the NFTs, it was really the art speaking for itself. So our option, I guess the way that you conventionally do this is you pay a marketer to write some content about your project. But we had as more powerful, we have an artist or a group of artists, and that's how we communicate our shared goal. And then we have we're very active on social media, like the team members and the community alike. So we are our own promoters, and I think that's the benefit of having the community instead of the top-down approach that I mentioned. When you're having a brand, you market it yourself. When you have a community, everyone has a vested interest because you all benefit from a rising tide. And we communicate that through art and community members sharing on social media.
Okay, cool. Yeah, Jordan says thank you. As far as I can see, there's no other questions. Last round here. Otherwise, thank you very much, Alex, Elias, and even really cool that you guys came, and thank you for your time. And especially for sharing your stories. They were so different, and I think we could all learn something. And this will go live on our YouTube channel as well, so many more developers and people can watch this later. And as a little preview, next week, Thursday, same time, we have a session on entrepreneurship for Web3 builders, where we have 3 different VCs answering all kind of questions on how to raise money as a Web3 builder, how to make a pitch deck, what is a venture studio, how do you get in touch with VCs, what is a seed round, and what is a term sheet, and all those questions will be answered by a panel next week. So looking forward to see you there. If you have any questions, you can reach out to me. My name is Tim Herman. That's also my Telegram, or just tim.herman@DFINITY.org. And thanks again to you three. Pleasure to have you on here, and looking forward to much more.